Other interesting business news, you have Ford officially killing the hot hatch after 45 years, although now it's global. It was formerly just in North America when we lost the awesome cars like the good old Ford, or as I like to say, the Ford. Got the Ford Focus ST and the Ford Focus RS. Those are awesome, though obviously not reliable because, Ford. Yeah, I still remember test driving those, and I was debating between getting the Honda Civic Si 2018 versus the Ford Focus ST. I mean, the Ford Focus ST had more torque, more horsepower. Both, I actually admire Ford for this. They only had it in a stick shift, and it was more fun to drive. However, the Honda Civic can more easily fit Freedom, also known as rifles, and also more reliable. And knock on wood, my Cadillac, I'm about to say Cadillac someday, hopefully, my Civic and my Honda has been pretty darn reliable thus far. But a couple years ago, Ford said, we're going to get out of cars because you don't make a lot of money in them. Most companies don't. Most of the profit in the automotive industry comes from, well, I was about to say hybrids. No. Crossovers, trucks, and SUVs. They're largely, hugely profitable, pun not really intended, because they're also huge. Or should say huge. That's where the profit comes from. So a couple years ago, Ford said, we're going to kill it. Well, in North America. Now it looks like it's all over. Now, here you can actually see one of the rear panels from my ST little hot hatch, which again, there's so much fun, but yeah, the reliability, not there. Now they say, quote, after 45 years of performance hatchbacks, Ford confirms to Motor One is exiting the segment. And this is credited to Adrian, who's a writer at, again, Motor1.com, saying, quote, Ford's hot hatch journey began with a modest attempt in 1980. Actually, let me get this beautiful car on the screen, which I don't say the words beautiful in Ford too often. Again, that looks to me kind of cute. It's like, is that the Ford? Is that the Focus? No, that's the Fiesta ST, which those things are a fun hot hatch. They weigh darn near nothing. And this one is actually nice green color. Again, this would be a fun car, but only Europe got the latest iterations of the Focus and the Fiesta. But I partially digress. Now, they say, quote, it began in the 1980s when the Fiesta Super Sport was launched. Things got more serious the following year with a beefier Fiesta XR2. However, it was the 1984 Escort RS that truly cemented the company's contribution in the exciting niche of practical performance cars. 45 years after the Super Sport, the Blue Oval is now exiting the segment. After the Fiesta ST was discontinued a couple years ago, the Focus ST has now followed suit. In a statement to Motor One, Ford confirmed that the new Focus ST orders are no longer being accepted. The company's European Commission's manager, Finn Tomlinson, stated, quote, all Focus ST factory orders until the end of production have now been reserved. This is disappointing news, unquote. This is disappointing news following a recent announcement from Ford UK about the retirement of its last remaining hot hatch. Although the configuration tool for the new ST is no longer available, Thompson mentioned that unsold vehicles are still available in most European markets. As previously reported, production of the Focus and its derivatives will cease in November. Once it happens, Ford will be left without a regular car in Europe. Jeez. Where the Fiesta was retired in 2023, and the Mondeo in 2022, and the Tiny Ka in 2020. They say that, quote, sure, the Mustang remains, but ultimately that's a niche product. The Pony Car's 5-liter V8 is both a blessing. I can't believe they have the audacity of saying it. It's a blessing and a curse. While it's an excellent naturally aspirated powertrain, the high EU totalitarian evil government, I'm sorry, I paraphrase there, they, quote, high EU taxes on large displacement engines make it a tough sell. The smaller turbocharged 2.3-liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder was pulled from the European market at the end of 2020. The Ka Fiesta and Mondeo already gone and Focus production winding down. Ford's European sales continue to decline. According to the figures from European Automotive Manufacturers Association, through April, Ford sales decreased 2.2% to 149,601 units across the EU and UK and EFTA countries, known as Iceland, Norway, Switzerland, and the fun trivia country people forget about, Liechtenstein, which is only known for having a long, complicated, hard-to-spell name, also Hilti Tools. That concludes everything you need to know about Liechtenstein. They're famously headquartered there. I'm great for trivia nights, as long as it's not sports balls questions. Now, they continue saying, quote, for perspective, Volkswagen sold 488,033 cars in the same time period in the same area. Even South Korea's Kia and Hyundai surpassed Ford with 183,095 units being sold and 174,103 being delivered respectively. I'm going to say we'll get another nice looking Ford on the screen, which is, again, something I usually don't say. Here you got the Ford, that's the 4-door Focus. Is that the ST or RS? The RS is a 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive version with a stick shift, which is also awesome too. They say that, quote, whether new models are on the horizon, let alone another hot hatch, is unclear. The combustion engine era appears to be winding down, so any further performance offering would likely be electric, which again is because of the corrupt European Union. They say that VW sales and marketing chief and former Ford head of Europe, Martin Sanders, has hinted at the possibility of Ford gaining more access to MEV platform to develop new models that allow the ID4 Explorer and EV stuff. They say still, it's too early to say whether Ford will launch something akin to the ID3 or upcoming ID2 or ID1. VW has committed to an electric GTI model. Terrible. So perhaps one day the Fiesta ST or Focus ST could return as EVs for all 18 people who would want that. I added that best part, obviously. Meanwhile, crossovers like the Puma, not the shoe, and Kuga must do the heavy lifting in the EU, EFTA, and UK regulations, where Ford's market share is currently at 3.4%, or roughly 3 times less than VW, which, yeah, it's sad to see these fun cars going away. And again, with Ford and a lot of these companies, I still think they gave up on North American market a long time ago for, cars. But again, I always think cars are a great entry-level vehicle. They obviously cost less, but then you get the person committed to liking the brand, and they obviously will eventually buy something like an SUV and a truck, which are comically more profitable in comparison to the cars. But again, I think this is partially due not just to consumer demand decreasing, but also the European Union, all the regulations. Because again, that's directly why Volkswagen said they were going to kill the ultimate, Golf GTI with the stick shift, is because of the emissions, all that kind of stuff. Not to get too political, but that is one of the biggest variables of why we're seeing a decrease of these types of performance vehicles in Europe, especially. And so it'll be interesting to see how this works out long term. But it is sad to see that, again, if I had unlimited funds, I probably would have a Focus ST in the driveway. Because, again, I know some friends have got 150,000 miles out of them. I know not every one of them is unreliable. But they, of course, have had some gasket issues. And, yeah, at the end of the day, I did choose Honda because of reliability. But yeah, let me know. Do you know anyone who's actually owned these vehicles? Do you like them? And do you think Ford will ever recover, market share in Europe? Let me know your thoughts and comments because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.